cloud. Okay, so today I will speak about one of the mitzvahs which are being hidden in our parsha. The Rambam explains in Hilchos Meluchim U'Melchoseim that the last mamash, the end, Perek Tes, that originally there were a lot of mitzvahs that were given before Sinai, and then they were repeated in Sinai. And one of the mitzvahs he explains how Bnei Noach received the 7 mitzvahs, and then Avraham received also Mila, where his Palashachas, Yitzchak was giving Meisers already, and then Yaakov had the Isur of Gidanoshe and Tfilas Arves, and then in Mitzrayim, Nitztavu Amram b'mitzvahs Yeseiros. So Amram received other mitzvahs in Mitzrayim, Achebor Moshe Rabbeinu v'nishlimu al Yodeh. So basically the idea is that Amram received in Mitzrayim, and nobody knows exactly what does he mean. What does he mean when he says that? So we don't have any specific medrash about that Amram received extra mitzvahs. So it's a bit of a mystery. And so the Maritz Chayes in Soite Yudaf Yud Beis, he explains that it means basically, that in this week's Parsha, we had in Parshas Shemos, I'm talking now going back to Parshas of yesterday, Israelach ish mi beis Levi, Yikach es bas Levi, and the Gemara said, V'ikach es bas Levi, that he made Kiddushin again. And so basically that the idea was he made Kiddushin. And so before Ben Noach, as the Rambam explained, they did not have to make any Kiddushin. They could just marry, and if they don't want, they just divorce by separating. And so here we have Vayikach es bas Levi, the Loshen Kicha is a Loshen from Kiddushin Kinyan, and therefore this is a mitzvah that was already existed apparently in Mitzrayim. Now, there are multiple, I looked up, maybe you'll find more, but there are multiple ways how the Torah explains the element of marriage. So you have the beginning, the Im Livno Yehudan, it's Parshas Mishpotim. So Yehud is kind of a marriage, kind of giving it to somebody or redeeming through marriage. Then you have a Shifro Nechrefes. Nobody knows. Even Rashi says that it's one off Loshen, so one time only Loshen. Nechrefes, Shifro Nechrefes. So this is also kind of a woman that is a shifro, which is basically Nechrefes. So Chazal learning in order to be able to explain it why they're not Chayiv Misa is because she is Chatzi Ben Choyer, Chatzi Shifro. So basically that's the element Nechrefes. There is also Kisiele Ish, somebody that Baskoin Kisiele Ish is also just to be appointed to a man. Mo'iroso is also, we'll see, Mo'iroso normally means that it is an engaged woman, but it's also part of the process of marriage. Then it says Veloisis Chatenbaum, so that's what it says by the Shivo Amamim. So there's a union of Loisis Chatunu, what we use today, what the word that we use today for a wedding. Then here's the one that we just said, sometimes it's about kicha, that's about a kind of buying, a kinyan that you do with the woman. And then there is also the lo yovoy bikal Hashem. That Chazal learned that this goes also on basically on actually marrying somebody from this person. So mamzer lo yovoy bikal Hashem, meaning that it is the element of marrying. So yovoy bikal Hashem is also kind of a marrying, and there is a lot we can speak about that marriage is something which is more than just individual, but it's also related to the klal, but that's not for today. We don't have enough time. So we see that marriage exists in the Torah. It's clearly there is such a chalois of a marriage, but there is something very interesting that we saw in 3 different places where the chalois of a marriage has been split into 2 phases. And we all know it. This is like it says by the neder. By the neder it says also iso beveis ovio, I think so. 1 second, sorry. But also isor beveis ovio. So this is a girl which is still at home. She's not married, and she makes a neder. Then the father can go and can be made for the neder of this girl. And then there is a secondary stage, which is, of course, the 3rd stage is in beis isho. So if she's already married, the woman that is married makes a neder, then it's the husband that can be mefer her nedorim. But the Torah just before that gives another example. V'im hoyo sia leish. So it says hoyo sia leish and dereo leo. Then v'shoma isho, the husband can do it. So lochoire is just 2 exactly the same cases. So posuk zayin is v'im hoyo sia leish. And then he says, all of it says again, in base ish on a door. So what's the difference? Elomai, we have to say that in Mehoyo Siel ish. So she is still beveis ovio, but she is already appointed to become a wife of a certain husband. So basically, it means that she's already kind of what we call today engaged. So she's in a phase, in between phase. She's not yet in base isho, and she's not beveis ovio, but she is like imhoya siel ish. So this is the first case, beis ovio, that is imhoya siel ish. Otherwise, it's impossible. You have to say that these are two different cases. Otherwise, the Torah repeats himself and gives exactly the same halacha. So there is no extra halacha that is added here, just that the husband can be mefer. And the Chazal learned that in this case, both the father and the husband can be mefer the neder. So you see here something very interesting in the din of neder. There is also a very interesting din, and that's the one that I wish you should remember till the end. This posuk. That's a very important pasuk for this shir today. It's the element of that when a person goes into the army and he goes into war, in that case he if the one is engaged to a woman but he did not marry her, so he will see that the eras is a first stage. He engaged her, but he did not marry her. So the so yokocho meaning in this context means that he's marrying her, living with her together in the house. Eras meaning again a stage before. So you see here that the Torah split up engagement versus wedding. And another din as well, and this is legabe somebody who is mezana. So so there also, if she's a psula moiroso leish, then uskaltem, then she receives skila. But the Torah says a bit before that, then it's not skila, but it is umesu gam shneim, and misr stam omer b'Torah is chenek. So a woman that is married already b'ulas baal, she receives chenek. But is a naro, which is a besula moiroso leish, if she is a naro amuroso, in that case she receives skila, and also the mezana is also receives skila. They both receive skila. So you see as well, the Torah splits up and says b'ulas baal is chenek, but moiroso leish, then she is not married yet, but she's moiroso leish, then she receives skila. So you see here three different halachas that the Torah clearly splits up the marriage into two phases. So by neder, it splits up in hoya siel ish, and then in base isho. So clearly the Torah says that those two have different dinim. But milchoma, well, not to go is asher eiras isho, and then he says veloy lekocho. So also it's like an in-between phase. And veshochav imo by the zone, the mezana, it also says moiroso leish. It's engaged. Bulas bal is already the case where she is completely married. So we can say that the nisuin, what Chazal call nisuin, is the marriage, and the kiddushin, what Chazal call kiddushin, is the pre-marriage. It's the stage just before. It's like in between. It's not yet married, but she's already kind of what we can call today reservation. So I reserved her, and it's confirmed, but it's not yet deployed. It's not yet implemented. So this is the in-between phase that we see very clearly in the Torah on three different places. Nafkemin is also in halacha in the Torah itself. So this is Torah shebichsav. Already we see that there is such a concept of being engaged and then being married. So these two have been split up in two. So that's already the very interesting element here. What we normally do from yeshiva, when we learn in yeshiva, we know that there is a loisasa. A person is not allowed to live with a girl without kiddushin. That is somebody who goes and lives with a girl and there is no kiddushin, and then just they depart, or for any reasons. Then there is a loisase, and Ischaiv Malkus, the Rambam is one of the loisase, loisia kedesho. So you're not allowed to live with a girl without a kiddushin. And then there is an asay. So what do you have to do? You have to be mekadesh. How do we know you have to be mekadesh? So there are two psukim, actually. People don't know, but there are actually two psukim. One of them is Kiikach ish isho uvo eleo useneo. That's the one that by the Moitzi Shemra. So this is also where the Chinuch says the mitzvah say of kiddushin. So this is the mitzvah say. So first you make kiddushin, and then only uvo eleo. but you can't boileo without kiyikach. So it's kind of, it's the kiyikach is the first step, and then comes the uvoeleo. And then there is another time where it's repeated, kiyikach ish isho vo'olo, boim lo tzimchayenov. So that's the posuk where it says the gate in Gerushin. So that's the posuk which says kiyikach. First you have to make kiddushin, and then uvo'olo. Yeah, it's interesting how the words uvo'eleo and uvo'olo are quite similar. I'm not going to go into that, but in any case, so it's a two-step approach. So first comes the kiddushin, and then comes the beer. Now I'm going to say that this is more the traditional way of seeing things, and this is not how the Rambam sees it, for sure not. As you can already imagine, here we have a shtickle problem, because we have here that kiyikach is kiddushin, and we saw before that if you remember, by the milchome, the veloy lekocho ish asher eras isho veloy lekocho. What does it mean veloy lekocho?
Quoi?
Allô? Allô, Reb Moshe, tu peux mettre sur mute, s'il te plaît. So the eras is a kiddushin, veloy lekocho. Lekocho does not mean erosin, but it means actually marriage. It means the nisuin. So we have a posuk where the lekicha means a nisuin. But here we always learn, and that's how you will always have learned, that kiyikach ish kicha means kiddushin. We learn kichum is the efroin. We will see that kicha means kiddushin, but in reality, when we look in the Torah, it's not like that. Kicha means a nisuin. So how do we make kiddushin? So the Mishnah says, "O isho niknes b'shloish drochim, v'koina esatzmo b'shtei drochim." B'shloish drochim nigmor. We'll ask why is it, I think, Loshen Zochor and not Nekever. So niknes b'kesef, b'shtar, or b'vir. So there are three ways that you can be koina, a woman. It is b'kesef, b'shtar, or b'bir. So the Rambam says that bir and shtar is minat Torah. The kesef, he says, is only midivrei soifrim. It's only miderabonon. And so the Ramban is very upset on him, and he writes a lot about it, and he disagrees with the Rambam completely. It comes out, according to that if a woman is mekudeshes bekesef, somebody gives her a ring, and then she goes in between and she goes to be mezana, then she's there's no misa. And we never heard of such a thing, and the Ramban disagrees completely with that. But it's also, and all the Meforshim already give explanation that is lav dafke. You can be miderabonon or midivrei soifrim, as we already explained, that this does not mean that there is no misa according to the Rambam, but there is taket tzad to say it like that, that indeed, maybe according to the Rambam, there would not be a skila yet, but we'll see how it comes to that. So the first question is, why is beer minat Torah? So the Rambam says two things are minat Torah, beer and shtar. Shtar meaning that he writes Ariat Mekudeshesli on a paper and he gives it to her. Beer is boiled for the chayfetz of kiddushin, for the purpose of kiddushin. And kesef is like what we do today. We give a shove pruta. So how does he know that beer and shtar is minat Torah? So he says very clearly, he says that that kiyikach ish isho uvolo, it does not mean like the Ramban, or we all learned in yeshiva and in school, that kiyikach ish isho is the first step, and afterwards uvoolo. No, kiyikach ish isho uvoolo, that this is one. How do you make a kicha from an ish isho? That you make a voolo, you boil her, and with this you are marrying her. So the marriage is the beer. So the kiyikach ish isho voolo, this is one sentence. It is one thing that you're doing. How do you do the kicha? With beer. So if you want to, you will take a woman and you will be boil her. So this is one, it's one element. That's what the Rambam says mefurish, that in the posuk it's clearly mefurish, meaning that the kicha is the beile. And probably the raya of the Rambam, as we said, it's from the posuk, in the posuk by the Melchome. Eras isho veloy lekocho. Lekocho means be'etzem marrying. It's the beer is taking her in the house and the chuppah and marrying her and having intercourse with her. This is the etzem, the marriage. And so that's posuk, that's clearly that the kiddushin is the beer. So that's the first step, says the Rambam. That's the Rambam mefurish in his tshuvas. Okay, the Rambam brings a tshuva. There's not in the Rambam in the Sefer HaMitzvah. It's not in the Rambam in the Yad HaChazukah, but the Rambam in the tshuvas. So that's why he brings down. He says, Poshet. He says in the pasuk uve'olo, so you can't be more doraisa than that. Now, why is a star min ha'Torah and the kesef is miderabonon? So then the Rambam says we have a problem. We have a problem because he says in the pasuk besula moiroso leish naro besula moiroso leish. If you say that moiroso means a beulo, that means that she is a beulo. How can she be a besula? After beulo is the opposite of beulo is besula. Besula is opposite is beulo. So how can they be two cannot be together? How does it mean that you can be a moiroso and also be a besula? If the etzem Kiddushin is a bia, then she's already a bu'ula, not a besula. Elomai, from the Torah we see that there is such a concept of an erusin, which is without bia, without bia. So the question is, what is it? We don't know what it is. We don't know what it is, but we have two limudim. So we have at least two limudim. And one of both, we have to choose. We have to choose one of both, because one of both has to be min Torah, because that's mefurish in the pasuk, a besula moiroso. So we know that there must be a concept of a moiroso that is also a besulo. So in other words, there is a concept, but the Torah does not tell us what it is. And so we have two limudim. So Chazal tell us at the star, we know from v'yotza mibesu v'holcho v'hoyso li'ish ache. So this is a logic that the same way that a pesha osar is a pesha hitir, the same way that the pesha hitir, the one that the thing that you liberate her will also be the same thing as the one that will be koine to you, that will bind her to you. So the hoil ve'goimeru moitzi goimeru machni, says the Gemara. So this is a hekesh. That's quite a strong limud. And then you have an also gzera shove that says that it says bekesef nosati kesef asode kach mimeni. So since it says the word kach and it says the word kesef in the same posuk, and so we can learn kicha kichom is the efron that you can also be mekadesh with kesef. So he says, the Rambam, that this second one is not so strong as the first one. The first one is nili mefurish. It's like it's a limud of a hekesh, but it's very logical. So since I have to choose one, and I don't know which one, I choose the one which is the most logical, which is the least yud gimel midas ater nidreshes bohem, which is the least unlogical, but nili, you can read it nili inside of the posuk. Like this posuk is telling us much more stronger the limud that it is erusin, and therefore I choose star to be the one that is dorais, says the Rambam, and so I'm left over with Kidushey Kessef, which is only a limud that tells me that you can also do oreses with Kessef. And since this is sorry,
why not say that there's two dorais? What's stopping the Rambam to say there is two?
No, so he says I have at least one, and one I have for sure. I need one. So this one I have to choose, and this will be mefurish in the pasuk. And the other one is maybe also the rice, but not mefurish in the pasuk.
But it's going to be no?
Yeah, but it's gzera shova is yud gimel midrash haTorah nidreshes, and yud gimel midrash haTorah nidreshes has a din of a divrei soifrim. It's also a din of the rabbonon. That's all the Rambam's in the Shoresh Aleph and Shoresh Beis. He explains that everything that is learned from yud gimel midrash is something that human beings have created. This logic they have created. This was not given on Sinai, and so therefore this is called the Rabbonon, miderabonon.
But that itself is a machlekas already.
Yeah, that's on itself is already a problem, and so whether or not she is chayv skila after star with the Kessef, Kidushey Kessef, that's already a shaila in the Rambam. We see stiras. I already once. Maybe I will give a shir once about that. We see sometimes he does give it the mamish din doraisa, and sometimes he doesn't give it doraisa. You can say that even if it is the rabbonon or like a stronger rabbonon, because yud gimel midrash haTorah nidreshes bohem, you can still receive skila afterwards because it's like a eid echod nemon beisurin, but with the eid echod you can receive malchus. Malchus you cannot receive with the eid echod, only with two eidim. But since the eid echod say on something that it is chazer, and afterwards I go and eat chazer with two eidim, then I'm chayv malchus. Why? Because the eid echod helps me to at least establish it, and then the Torah tells me that if I eat a chazer, it has been established. So if here as well, if she is a mureses from Yud Gimel Midrash haTorah nidreshes bohem, if afterwards she go and be mezameh, she can receive skila. So you have
But it's only the Rabbanon L'Shitosoi, basically.
It's called like a drabonon, but it's called divrei soifrim.
But L'Shitosoi, because
L'Shitosoi, yeah, of course, L'Shitosoi only, yeah. He continues in his L'Shitosoi, and he speaks about that. The L'Shitosi, which I brought down, and where everybody else made a mistake about that, he's very critical about the others, but he really brings it down that I already explained. Everything that we learn from Yud Gimel Midas is only midivrei soifrim. And so Kidushey Kessef, he says, I have to choose one of them. Why he didn't choose both, I don't know, but he has to choose one of them in order to be able. There's one of them for sure will be the Doraisa Mamish, because he says Besula Moiroso. I just don't know which one it is. So he chooses this one, which sounds to him more. There's both svoros to say that this one is Doraisa, and the rest is only miderabonon or midivrei soifrim. Let's put it that way, and then whatever that may mean, it's already a different shir. Okay, so this is how the Rambam sees it. So the beer is poshut. Why? The beer is because it's kiigach ish isho uvolo. That's the same posuk. So the kicha is beile, and we see it also. So kicha means marriage, does not mean kiddushin. But the Ramban learns no, that the kicha meaning that it is kiddushin, and we will see. So basically, if you want, it's a fundamental machloek between the Rambam and the Ramban. According to the Rambam, the kicha means a marriage which is contractual and is timeless. It's like I'm getting married. That's kicha. It's like mamish. I'm buying something, and when you buy something, it's forever. And this is a beer or chuppah. This is what we do normally. But if you want, you have the possibility to be ma'ares a woman. Why would you do that? It's kind of a reservation. She is too young, you are too young, you have to want to make first parnosa, you want to prepare the wedding, so you can reserve her. And so the Torah was machadash that you can go back in time and you can make a kiddushin to reserve her, make sure that she's not going to get married to nobody else, because otherwise everything will be for nothing. You already want her now, but you can't take her now, so you are reserving her. And this is kiddushin, and this can be done only with a shtar normally, and eventually kesef, because Yud Gimel Midas, it's from kicha is the Ephraim. But the inyan of kiddushin is kind of a reservation from the proper marriage. But this is the other way around. So the Rambam says marriage is the kicha. Every time he says kicha in the Torah, it means marriage, and then you can have a kiddushin erusin, which is with shtar normally, because like this you can have a woman which is still a psula and already being married to a man. But the Ramban says, like we always learned in yeshiva and in school, we always learn that it is two-step. It is first you do a Kidushey Kessef, which is kicha, and also shtar, that's a limud faket. He says that the whole kiddushin is lekatchile Kidushey Kessef, because this we learn from kicha. Kicha is the Efroin, but it's also a shtar. We learn it from Sukkim, and it's from Makesh Avai Leitzir, and also from beer. We learn it from other Sukkim, also Boalo, the Bu'ul Asbal, I think we learn it, that you can also do a kiddushin with a beer. But the Iker, he says, as the Ramban, is Ein Kicha Elo Bekesef. And therefore he says that the Kicha is the kiddushin, is the Kesef, and then the second step is a cohabitation. That's called a Nisuin. That's already something to make it more concrete. Maybe it's, how it happens exactly, we don't know, but it's according to the Ramban, it's only a second step. So it's always, the marriage is always going to be in two steps. First has to start with the Kiddushim. Lekatchila min haTorah should be Kidushey Kessef, and then comes the cohabitation when they live together. So it's the arrows goes from right to left. And according to Rambam, the marriage is the Iker. But if you want, you can do a Kiddushin before to reserve her. But the Iker is the marriage. The Kicha that the Torah speaks is the Kicha is a marriage, and not a Kidushey Kessef as the other Rishonim and especially the Ramban wants to learn. Now, where is it becoming very interesting is there are a lot of other psukim, like for example, on the right top one, you see the Isha lachoiso loisikoch. I can't see because there is, sorry, I don't know what it says afterwards. Somebody can read it. Loisikoch on the right side.
Litzroer,
exactly, litzroer. So loisikoch litzroer legalo servo soleo. So there's a whole hakira. What is the isur? Is the isur a marriage isur with Isha lachoiso, or is it kiddushin? So all the Rishonim, and you'll see Minchas Chinuch, and all the Chinuch already also says, yeah, because it says Lo Sikoch and Kicha and Kicha Lo Kiddushin, and so they say that we must say that is also by the Kiddushin already you're over on the lav, not only by the erve, also already by the Kiddushin. And the Minchas Chinuch brings down, the Rambam doesn't mention that. And the Rambam doesn't mention that. It's the Tosfos wants to say that everywhere it says Kicha is Kiddushin, and therefore Tosfos and Rambam, they all Rishonim all like that it's the Kicha. And so the Minchas Chinuch brings down that the Rambam is not mentioning it. No, of course he's not mentioning it, because he doesn't learn Kicha like the other Rishonim, that Kicha means Kiddushin. He learns Kicha to be marriage. And Erusin is what it says in the Torah, but the whole Kicha is the Efroin, is a klompish limud. It's a difficult limud, because the Kicha normally is not on the Erusin, but the Kicha is on the marriage, as we saw by the Milchome. And so therefore, when we say Lo Sikoch, means the marriage. So he should not want to marry, but Taka, it has to be, it also when it's not only when, so the Shaila is, if it's also when you're marrying her, but or it has to be, it can be a stam an aroya that you were megale, stam gilo aroyos with her, like for one night, or it has to be taka in a marriage status. So, for example, the next one is ervas isho bito lois legales vas benoves bet lois sikach legales servoso. So the same problem here you will see in the Rishonim. The problem is, what means does it mean with kicha or means without kicha? There's the kiddushin already, the isur. It means that you have to live with her in a marriage way. So it's not just a one-time off, but it has to be kind of in a marriage way. I suggest that you look up. It's very interesting. All the Minchas Chinuch, but also the Meforshim, the Agois on the Minchas Chinuch, they bring down a lot about the different shittas. But according to how we explained it, it's very good. That the Rambam does not have this problem, because for him, kicha meaning it is a marriage. It is already a beer by definition. And then in Parshas Shemos, we see by the Kohen, Ishu Zoin V'Chalol Lo Yikochu. There also, the Rambam, normally, the is like a machlokes in the Gemara, if Lo Yikochu, if with the Kiddushin already Chayiv Malkas or not. And so the Rambam clearly passes like Rove, not Abai, the machlokes Abai and Rove. And he says that no, when you give, you have to give taka, you have to be koina her, but it is the beer that is the issue. Whereas there's no beer here, it says lo yikochu, it's kiddushin. If the whole kicha means kiddushin, then where's the beer? Some with the kiddushin, you're over the love. So the Rambam says no, if somebody gives kiddushin, he's not over the love, he has to be boil her. But beer without kiddushin is also not chayiv. Why? Because it's stam beer. That's stam you lived with somebody without kiddushin. That's also not lo yikochu. So you clearly see that the Rambam held that lo yikochu on the left side. Yeah, isho zoin v'chalo lo yikochu. This lo yikochu meaning marriage, and marriage meaning that there is a beer, but it's together a beer, but it's not stam a beer a one night story, but it is a mamish, a marriage that you live with her in together. You had a kind of a kiddushin that you made it together. So the kiddushin is not the isra the kiddushin, but the kiddushin makes it that your beer was a beer of a marriage, which is what the Torah does not allow. Which is interesting that the Rambam goes even further, and he says that by al almona, which is the Kohen Gadol, is not allowed to marry an almona, and then he says lo yikoch. He says left on the left bottom part. He says almona ugroshe v'chalol zone es ele lo yikoch. There he says lo yikoch. So according to the Rambam, it is you're not allowed to marry and live with her. V'lo yechalel zaro ba'amov, says the Rambam, it's an extra love that not stam with marriage, but if a Kohen Gadol lives just one night, he lives with just has a beer with an almona, he is chayiv malchus on that posuk tezvov, which is v'lo yechal zaroi, because there it doesn't say kicha. So you very clearly see from the Rambam that the inyan of the kicha is the inyan of the marriage, and not stam the erusin, not stam the kiddushin. And to understand a little bit, but I don't have the time anymore, but to understand a little bit the kicha, where does this come from? And the word kicha, because the Torah also says, "Vayivan Hashem Elokim es hatzelu asher lokach minu odom." So you see, he took it away from the Odom, and he took away also Vayomer Odom zois apam etzem atzuma bosom lisorol zois yikore ishon kimish lokochol zois. So since it was taken from the husband, so now when the husband marries, the Torah calls it a kicha. He buys it back, kind of. There is a compensation, which I already explained, the whole compensation of Bino and Das, that they have to compensate each other. So there is kind of a regaining, and there is, as Manitou explained, There is the kinyan etzem and the kinyan nafshoy, but this is we don't have the time anymore. But so this is what I wanted to say today. So it's very important to remember that kicha, although kicha is always a lotion of Kiddushin, according to most Rishonim, there is one posuk that clearly shows you that it's not the case, and this is by the Milchoma. It says Mefurish aser eiras isho veloy lekocho. So erusin and loy lekocho. Lekocho is clearly in this context nisuin, and this is what probably pushed the Rambam to say that the whole kicha meaning is nisuin and not Kiddushin. Kiddushin is something which we have to learn from the fact that the Kidushey Kessef is a Yud Gimel Midas, and the Kidushey Shtar is we have no other choice because it says Mureses and a Psulo, but Be'ikr, when the Torah says Kicha, it means marriage and not Kiddushin as normally we learn according to Rov Rishonim. So just to explain you the Rambam's Shitta. Are there any questions? Was it clear?
Yes, thank you.
Baruch Hashem, thank you.
Yes, very clear. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much for listening. And I will put it anyway. I have recorded and I'll put it up. I'll send you the links if you want to listen to it again. Have a good evening, everybody.
Shkoyach.
Kol tov. Sorry, Kol tov.
Shkoyach.